UFC on Fox Sports 1, main card, let's do it. Lightweight division, one of the most exciting fighters in MMA, Joe Lauzon, returning to the octagon to face Michael Johnson. Now, Joe Lauzon, 22-8 on his pro career, 9-5 in the UFC, was decisioned in his last fight by Jim Miller in what I personally thought was one of the fights of the year. He has finished all 22 of his professional wins. There's 4 knockouts in there, but a phenomenal 18 submissions. But he has been finished in 6 of his 8 losses. So it's kind of live by the sword, die by the sword. He also has never won a decision in his career, being 0-2 when the fight goes the distance. But Lauzon has got an intense and exciting fight style. That's why he's like the king of the UFC bonuses. He always looks for takedowns. He strikes in order to pass. He's got 24 submission attempts in his last 15 fights. That's a big number. I love me some Joe Lauzon. Michael Johnson, 12-8 on his pro career, 4-4 in the UFC. He was submitted in his last fight by Hezem Madadi. 8 of his 12 pro wins have been finishes. He's got 6 knockouts and 2 submissions, but he's only got 1 since around the middle of 2011, so we're talking about 2 years now. 6 of his 8 pro losses have come by way of submission, and he is 4-2 when the fight goes the distance. Michael Johnson walks into this fight with a 2-inch reach advantage somewhere in that area, got very good takedown defense of around 74%, seems to prefer to keep the fight standing and keep it kind of in the clinch. He's got pretty good clinch striking there. But I can't go against my boy, right? I cannot go against Joe Lauzon. Every time he goes in there, it feels like Joe Lauzon has a chance to beat anybody, and if he doesn't beat them, he's going to put on a hell of an exciting show because this kid is a warrior. I'm going to take Joe Lauzon to beat Michael Johnson by 2nd round submission. Middleweight division, we have John Howard making his return to the UFC to take on the highly touted Uriah Hall. John Howard is 20-8 on his pro career, only 4-3 in the UFC. Has 2 straight knockout wins in CES MMA, which is a smaller promotion. 15 of his 20 pro wins have been finishes. He's got 9 knockouts and 6 submissions. He is 5-5 when the fight goes the distance. The big story in this fight, John Howard goes in here with an 8.5-inch disadvantage in the reach. He does have decent boxing. He's got some ground and pound. He's got some clinch striking, and he's somewhat elusive. He avoids about 56% of incoming strikes and has about a 43% takedown defense. So really, it's only 50-50 there. Uriah Hall, 7-3 on his pro career, losing his only UFC bout, being decisioned by Kevin Gastelum in the finals of The Ultimate Fighter. 6 of Hall's 7 professional wins have been finishes, 4 knockouts and 2 submissions. He's only 1-2 when the fight goes the distance. He trains with Blackhouse and has a 2nd-degree black belt in Tiger Schulman MMA. He's got a great karate style, like his great karate style fighting. I enjoy watching Uriah Hall fight just because he looks kind of different. And he also has very good sweeps after being taken down. He's displayed that in his last couple of fights. I think he has 3 sweeps in his last 2 fights. So when he gets taken down, he's pretty good at getting out of that position. What worries me about this fight, obviously, is that reach disadvantage for John Howard. I don't think, even though you've got good boxing, I don't see really how you overcome an 8.5-inch reach disadvantage over a guy that's got good striking himself and also has quite a bit of knockout power. So I'm going to take Uriah Hall in this fight. I think Uriah Hall beats John Howard by 2nd round knockout or TKO. Editor's note, if Uriah Hall doesn't beat John Howard, maybe the guy doesn't belong in the UFC. No disrespect to John Howard, but, you know. Welterweight division sees us match up Matt Browne versus Mike Pyle. Matt Browne, 17-11 on his pro career, 10-5 in the UFC. Currently riding a 5-fight win streak, very quietly, but a 5-fight win streak for Matt Browne, including 3 straight knockouts or TKOs in the UFC. 15 of his 17 pro wins have been finishes, 10 knockouts and 5 submissions. Very good numbers there. But he has been subbed in 9 of his 11 losses, including his last 4 losses straight. But he obviously hasn't lost in a while, so it's been a little while since he's been submitted, but that is something to keep in mind. Matt Browne's game is striking from everywhere. Stand-up, clinch, ground and pound. Doesn't matter. Matt Browne is throwing hands. He's very active on the ground. He's got great conditioning. And what I love about watching Matt Browne fight is he's always constantly moving forward and will eat a shot in order to deliver two of his own. Mike Pyle, 25-8-1 on his pro career. A lot of UFC experience, coming in at 8-3. Also riding a 4-fight win streak. 16 of his 25 pro wins have been by submission, so that's something to keep in mind considering Matt Browne has lost 9 of his 11 fights by submission. But he has been finished in 7 of his 8 losses, including his last 7 consecutive losses have all been by finishes. He comes into this fight with a disadvantage of 2 inches in the reach game. He's got solid stand-up. He's got decent ground and pound. He's got very good takedown defense at 74%. He sports a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and trains with Extreme Couture. I think I gotta go Matt Browne in this one. I've been a bit of a doubter, not really a hater of Matt Browne's, but I've been a doubter of him based on his record and everything like that. His record in this case has been deceiving, so I'm gonna go with Matt Browne. I like Matt Browne to continue his win streak, move up the rankings at welterweight. This is a guy that could make some noise here. So I got Matt Browne beating Mike Pyle by unanimous judges' decision. Our next fight sees us drop all the way down to the bantamweight division, where the California kid Uriah Faber, one of the most beloved and one of the most disliked fighters, it seems, in the UFC, depending on who you talk to, takes on Yuri Alcantara. Now, Uriah Faber is 28-6 on his pro career, 4-2 in the UFC. Currently has a streak of 2 straight submission wins, those being over Scott Jorgensen and Ivan Menjivar. 23 of his 28 pro wins have been finishes, 7 knockouts, and 16 submissions. He's a BJJ brown belt. More importantly, I think, to Faber's fight game is he was a Div 1 NCAA wrestler. But let's be fair, Uriah Faber's grappling, no matter where it is world class, nothing short of world class, and he's got top shelf hand speed too. Like, the dude's got really, really fast hands, even for a bantamweight. He's got good striking, he's got great ground and pound, and he's very, very active on the ground. So really, no matter where the fight goes, Faber is very comfortable. Yuri Alcantara, 28-4-1 on his pro career, a great record, 3-1-1 in the UFC. He TKO'd Iliard Santos in his last fight. Now, 24 of his 28 pro wins have been finishes. We're talking 12 knockouts and 12 submissions. So Alcantara is very talented offensively. He's got a BJJ black belt. He is 4-2 when the fight goes the distance. He's got a very solid ground game. He's got really good takedowns. Lots of guard passing on the ground, and he's got good ground and pound, so he can basically do what he wants on the ground. He also stuffs about 2/3 of incoming takedowns, but I think this is a fight where Faber is going to spam takedowns. I think he's just going to, it's going to be like an online match in Undisputed 3. Like, he's just going to spam takedowns until he finally gets Alcantara on the ground, and I think Faber's going to end up taking it. I actually like to see Faber catch Alcantara in a submission, so I'm going to take Uriah Faber to beat Yuri Alcantara by a second round submission. Just seems to be trending that way, so I'm going to stick with it. Co-main event time. It's the big boys. Heavyweight division, 265 pounds. Travis Browne taking on Overeem, the Demolition Man, Alistair Overeem. Travis Browne, 14-1-1 on his pro career. He is 5-1-1 in the UFC. He knocked out Gabriel Gonzaga in his last fight. 10 of his 14 pro wins have come by way of knockout, but he was KO'd in his only loss. Now, there's no reach advantage here either way. They have identical reaches, which I actually think is going to favor Travis Browne, just because I think his hand speed is significantly better than Overeem's is. Overeem is just so big and bulky that his punches, while very dangerous, seem to come in a little slower than some of his other heavyweights. Browne striking from everywhere. He's never been taken down in the UFC. He's got a very well-rounded game and is a well-rounded heavyweight. Alistair Overeem, 36-12-1 on his pro career, so a definite experience edge there, but only 1-1 in the UFC, being knocked out in his last fight by Antonio Bigfoot Silva because Overeem is an idiot. That snapped a 12-fight unbeaten streak. 34 of his 36 professional wins have been finishes. We're talking 15 knockouts and 19 submissions. A lot of those submissions came when he was a light heavyweight, but still. but he's been knocked out in 7 of his 12 losses, including, of course, his most recent one. He's big, he's powerful, he's experienced, but he's just too friggin' cocky. Overeem thinks that he's got a much better chin than he actually does, and Antonio Silva really exploited that in the last fight because he just started wringing punches off of Overeem's jaw because Overeem decided not to keep his hands up, so that's what happens. However, Overeem has outstruck his opponent in 12 of his last 14 fights, and that usually means if Overeem can lay hands on you, usually means nighty-night. I gotta go Overeem here. I think it's against my better judgment. I think there's a good chance Travis Browne wins this fight. But if Overeem fights a smart fight defensively, which doesn't mean, sticking and jabbing and moving and all that shit that GSP does, it just means keep your friggin' hands up when you're against a heavyweight that's got heavy hands. That's all that means. I think if he does that, he can win this fight. Because I still believe in Overeem. I think Overeem is a very talented fighter. He's just got to stop being so goddamn cocky. So I'm going to take Overeem here to beat Travis Browne, maybe against my better judgment, by way of second round knockout or TKO. Main event time, light heavyweight, 5-round fight. We've got Mauricio Shogun Hua, one of the all-time greats, taking on the Westland gangster himself, Chael Sonnen, in his first non-title fight in his last 2 fights. Shogun, 21-7 on his pro career, an even record of 5-5 in the UFC, was decisioned in his last fight by Alexander Gustafsson. 18 of his 21 pro wins have been knockouts. The dude has got dynamite. He's been finished, however, in 4 of his 7 losses. He's 2-3 when the fight goes the distance. He's been kind of hit and miss since 2009. Really, since coming over to the UFC, he's been kind of win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. Now, granted, he did win the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship in that run. Should have won it in his first fight against Machida because he kind of got screwed, but then finished Machida in their second fight, so there you go. Quite possibly the most exciting, I don't even want to call him a fighter, like he's a warrior. Shogun is an absolute warrior, so he's the most exciting warrior in mixed martial arts. It's just a super, super aggressive style. One of his Achilles heels, however, is he lacks a really good takedown defense, and that may very well come into play here against Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen, 27-13-1 on his pro career, 6-6 in the UFC. 2 straight TKO losses in title fights to John Bones Jones and Anderson the Spider Silva. However, he is 16-1, phenomenal 16-1 when the fight goes the distance. Sonnen has been finished in 12 of his 13 professional losses. He's got great wrestling, tons of pressure, most of his striking comes on the ground, and he is very good once he gets on top at passing the guard. I think based on Sonnen's wrestling, that's going to kind of stretch this fight out a little bit. I think it will get into the main event rounds. I think it goes to the 4th round, but I love me some Shogun. You never bet against Mauricio Shogun Hua. It's just, I don't know, you just don't do it. So I'm going to take Shogun to beat Chael Sonnen in the main event by 4th round knockout or TKO. Those are the fight predictions, ladies and gentlemen. Going to go over them here with you one more time. Lightweight division, we've got Ramsey Nijem with a unanimous judges decision victory over James Vick. Light heavyweight, we have OSP, Ovince St. Preux, knocking out or TKOing Cody Donovan in the 3rd round. Featherweight, the first of, I think, 4 straight featherweight fights. Manny Gamburyan with a unanimous judges decision victory over Cole Miller. Diego Brandao with the same over Daniel Pineda, unanimous judges decision. Mike Browne with a 2nd round knockout or TKO over Steven Seiler. And Conor McGregor proving his Irish worth with a 1st round knockout or TKO over Max Holloway. Bantamweight division, main event of the preliminary card, we've got Michael McDonald grinding out a unanimous judges decision victory, probably a relatively boring fight against Brad Pickett. We go to the main card now, lightweight division. I've got Joe Lozon submitting Michael Johnson in the 2nd round. I've got Uriah Hall at middleweight with a 2nd round knockout or TKO victory over John Howard. Welterweight division, I've got Matt Browne with a unanimous judges decision victory over Mike Pyle. Looking forward to that fight. Bantamweight division, Uriah Faber with a second-round submission victory over Yuri Alcantara. Heavyweight division, I've got Alistair Overeem with a second-round knockout or TKO victory over Travis Browne. Kind of iffy on that fight. And in the main event of the evening, light heavyweight division, we've got Shogun, Mauricio with a fourth-round knockout or TKO victory over the Westland gangster Chael Sonnen. Those are the fight predictions. Want to hear your fight predictions in the comments section below. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Check your cable providers. Figure out where you're getting Fox Sports 1. I'm in Canada. I don't have to worry about it. I got Sportsnet. But you guys find out where Fox Sports 1 is. Make sure you tune yourself in to what's going to be a very exciting card and enjoy the fights on Saturday night. War Shogun.